Welcome back to Lovin Sheila, the podcast shorts number 31. Moving right along here. Since the last time that I saw you, I got to celebrate my birthday. I won't mention which number, just getting up there. But it was a milestone and it was great. Got a lot of well wishes, did a lot of fun things, and I am still celebrating because it is still October and I don't want the party to end yet. So last time we talked, I was talking to you about me rereading this book here, All About Love by Bell Hooks, and I'm continuing my reading of it. And when I was reading it, my focus has been emotional support because I'm here for that. I mean, that's my thing, one of my things, emotional support, boundaries. But conversely, when I was reading it, she mentioned emotional abuse, and I mentioned that to you on the last podcast, and I said, I'm gonna get back to that because it stuck out to me like a sore thumb. So I was like, let's get into emotional abuse. And I played dumb like I do, like Alice in Wonderland sometimes. And, I asked my therapist, I said, what's emotional abuse? And she gave me ideas and thoughts on emotional abuse and and I already knew, pretty much knew, but I guess I just needed it to be reiterated to me. And so even with this sticking out, because in our journey we come so far, sometimes we kind of forget. I know I do. Sometimes I kind of forget some things that were kind of important to me, that were things that may have happened to me in the past. As I'm here, I kind of like, oh, I forgot that, but then there's something that reminds us. And so it took me back to emotional abuse and why it was so important for me to get emotional support. So I wanted to kind of define emotional abuse a little bit, and abuse meaning just misuse. Anytime you use something for something different than its purpose, it's abuse. You're abusing it, I would say. So emotional abuse is misuse of someone's emotions, and oftentimes we try to control or scare someone in a relationship by these tactics of emotional abuse. So again, my need for support came from, unfortunately, what I think were some forms of abuse. Now, just like with love, I gave components of love last time. Just like with love, so there's a breadth to it. And likewise with emotional abuse, there is a breadth of ways it can be exhibited. So everything may not be present, but if you find by the preponderance of the evidence that more things are present than not, then you might be experiencing a form of emotional abuse. And I think it's good that we recognize it. So I want to share some of the ways it comes out. There are components, and it could be threats, insults, people watching you, jealousy, possessiveness, manipulation, intimidation, making you feel small, intimidating, did I say that? Intimidating or ignoring you, gaslighting. A lot of times it just really puts you in a defensive position because you kind of feel like, did I do that? Am I not being supportive? Am I not being loving? Am I not being giving? Have I not given myself? Have I not been open, honest? You just begin to mistrust so many things about yourself because the way that they have positioned you and are regarded you or put these things on you, it kind of makes you feel like second guessing yourself, and it makes you feel, in a sense, inadequate, and it really messes with your self-esteem. One of the things that I've felt over the years was just feeling like I was possessed, like I was owned, like I was available for whatever, and I was to pop up from any situation with no problem. It's no problem. Like, okay, I'm back. Now you should just regard me, like put me back where I was and regard me with the same esteem as you did previously. without any consequence. And then you start to, I think you begin to acquiesce, and you're like, yeah, we're back. Let's do this. And so it was a cycle of what I feel was abuse. And in that, you begin to lose your identity. You really kind of acquiesce into what a person has made you and how they make you feel. And so in losing that identity, it really affects your self-esteem. And that's something that's a hard pill to swallow, because I've always felt that I had good self-esteem, and then to find myself in this situation to where I had lessened myself or accepted something, and I accepted it for the greater good, because in my mind I was strong enough. I could handle this because I'm built for this. I'm probably the only one who can do it, and I know who I am, and because I know who I am, I can handle this, no problem. I have no words for that. but that's where you are. And then there comes a point where you start to put your foot down and you start to recognize that this is not healthy. This is not my lot in life, that I have to provide a safe place for abuse because I'm capable of withstanding it. And even the abuser, they subtly encourage it you subtly encourage it because you begin to walk on eggshells to make sure that they're okay, that that you keep them where they need to be without any rage or anger or name calling or whatever it might be. But you begin to have your life where it's not quite how you want it, but it's a way that kind of keeps everybody supposedly on the surface happy. And so you're walking on eggshells. But what I realize is, no, even though supposedly everyone on the surface is happy, actually everybody on the surface isn't happy. We're just wearing a mask and we're living in a masquerade. So anyway, getting away from the masquerade, and all these things I talked about as I went on this Lovin Sheila journey. I did a podcast on putting yourself first, learning to trust, who am I, protecting your peace, all these things, because I was peeling back the layers to my own abuse from others and potentially from myself, because I was selfless and did not regard myself and did not stand up for myself as I should have. And I had to learn to trust. And I did a podcast on that too, learning to trust. And it took an interesting turn because trust for me was foundational. Because like I said, when you go through abusive situations and everything is supposedly back and you're supposed to look at them with the same feeling you had before, it really, really digs a hole in the trust. So you don't really trust them anymore. And so I was really focused on trust for any type of relationship that I would continue in the future. I had to trust them. But what I also learned in the process of thinking about that is I had to learn to trust myself again, because I felt like I had endured so much and had gone through so much for so long that how can I trust my decision? My decision-making capability is not good, and why did I do this and why did I do that? So I had to learn to trust all over again. But that's really probably part of the gaslighting thing from the abuse. So all these are just the damage and the harm that it does when you are involved in emotional abuse. It's just so much. It's like rebuilding your foundation forward and trying to forgive yourself for allowing certain things to happen. So I want to give you these 5 signs that you might be in an emotionally abusive relationship. And one is that they're very hypercritical of you. They ignore your privacy or your boundaries. And I've been told before that I don't have any privacy. And just because you're in a relationship with someone doesn't mean you don't have privacy. You need to maintain your autonomy, who you are, your identity, because if you don't have anything and everything comes crashing in, you lose your autonomy, you lose your identity and your self-esteem. So it's very important. So all these things can be kind of methodically, masterfully instituted by emotional abusers. So we have to be hyper vigilant and hyper aware in a sense to ensure this is not happening again. So also you find they're manipulative and they dismiss your feelings. I recall a time where I said, someone was telling me that I was doing something, I can't remember the word, and I remember making a list to myself of why I wasn't being selfish or whatever the word was. I can't remember what it's in my phone though. And I said, do you want to hear it? I'll tell you why. I was like, I'll tell you why I'm not being this. And I was like, I wrote it down. You want to hear it? And they said no. And so I was like, so I did not share it, but I was like, I had to remind myself of everything that was going on, so I could not be gaslit into believing this did not happen. So they are dismissive, so you want to be careful of that. And of course they're possessive and controlling. So those are some 5 signs of emotionally abusive behavior. Now, there is and oftentimes, I want to share this with you, oftentimes we feel like, okay, we know why they are this way, we understand why they are this way, but we have to understand that we are not, here to make accommodations. I'm not here to make accommodations. A lot of times, like with a special needs program, they make accommodations for what you need. Like once I had my son tested to see if he needed to take tests alone, like does he need an accommodation or something like that, and he didn't. But a lot of times we make accommodations for them. But listen, putting yourself first requires you to put yourself first. There's no accommodation. So obviously I have had experiences that have made me who I am. Some healthy, some unhealthy, and I have to do the work. Likewise, the abuser may have had some experiences that have made them who they are, and likewise, they need to do the work. It is not our responsibility to heal them, to point them in the right direction, to get them on track, to take their crap because they've been through some things. Not our responsibility. So it says this: the abusive behavior can often be attributed to the abuser's childhood, where he may have been abused and didn't know how to deal with the resulting distress and anguish. As a result, these people feel inadequate at having positive and healthy relationships. They feel hurt, angry, and sometimes incapable of feeling empathy or controlling their emotions. Instead, they project and try to control those emotions by being emotionally abusive. Now, that very well might be true. I believe it is true. Again, it doesn't stop us from having the responsibility of putting ourselves first and taking a more selfish approach. And because we got to come back from this. And so first of all is we have to recognize, first of all, I just gave you 5 signs. Okay, we have to recognize if we're in an abusive relationship. And we have to adjust, okay? We have to adjust. We have to look at the situation. Just like I went for a run earlier this week. The first run I went on, I hadn't been just straight running for a while. And I was like, I told my son, I was like, I never hit my stride. It wasn't a good run. And I was really tired at the end, right? I thought about it. I reflected, I adjusted. I went back the next day, I took a run. I hit my stride. I hit my stride. I was relaxed. I was in a good place. And so again, this is what we have to do. We have to recalibrate. Like I recalibrated. I went a little slower. I went too fast the first day. I slowed down. I paced myself. And so sometimes we have to recalibrate as we're adjusting and put our needs first. It's not natural for us women to put ourselves first. But if we are going to be healthy, if we're going to have good relationships, we're going to have to find out what we need and who we are first. And we're going to have to set boundaries and effectively communicate our boundaries and even enforce our boundaries. Because if you are, first of all, the boundaries, like we said before, are put in place to help better our relationships. They're not to harm our relationships, they're to strengthen our relationships. So if you're not respecting my boundaries and you are not looking to strengthen our relationship, it's very simple. And so we need to make sure we set boundaries, we enforce our boundaries, and there are consequences when you don't respect our boundaries, because this is just another way that we're taking care of ourselves, putting our needs first. Okay, establishing boundaries and doing this in a calm way. We're not angry, we're just going through our process to make sure that we are living the life that we want, that we are curating the life we want, that we are finding our peace. That's another thing. Before coming out of emotional abuse, I think the first place we go to is peace. We got to calm everything around us. We got to get in a place where we can hear, feel, get in touch with our senses. Okay, literally get in touch with our senses. And then once we have that calm and that peace, then we can have our boundaries and figure out what we need and how to put those needs first and communicate those needs effectively. There's more to this. I'm continuing this journey. I try to jump in a lot of stuff in this short, but this is something that's going to be ongoing. Remember, healing is not linear. There's going to be ebbs and flows, ups and downs, but we're in this together. I have good days, I have bad days. I have days where I feel like I'm doing the work, and I have days that I feel like I'm slacking, but just continue on the journey. Continue doing the work on yourself and reflecting and evaluating and recalibrating and adjusting, pivoting when necessary. And I think we'll all get to where we're trying to go. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I want to hear your comments. I need your comments. I need to hear them. We're doing a live event soon, Courageous Conversations, and your comments will help us know where to go with that in our Courageous Conversation. So please give me your comments, and I look forward to seeing you on the next Lovin Sheila podcast. Take care.